Welcome, Sami, to Metallarium Pages. It's a great pleasure to talk with you today about Ensiferum, this new album, Winter Storm, and more things related to the metal world in general. So we started by asking, how are you doing today? How is the band in the last couple of years?
Well, I'm doing super, and yeah, finally getting the album out because yeah, it's been 4 years before. I mean, it's a long gap between these two albums. We never had this long gap. Uh, well, I think it's needless to say the last 4 years have been hard for because it's the whole fucking planet was in this COVID chaos, and now I think the whole global, I think there's like inflation everywhere and blah 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 blah. But let's not go into money or politics. But I would say the spirit in the band is really high at the moment because what happened with Thalassic was that we released it and it was really in the middle of well when the COVID started, so we could see just the calendar was getting empty and empty, and boom, suddenly everything was gone. So we were like, we made a album that was probably our most successful, and we couldn't tour. So now it feels really good to finally release an album that we worked years for, and I can tell that next year and the year after that are going to be very busy for Ensiferum. So that feels really good. Kind of get
Mhm.
back to normal cycle of life.
Okay, okay. So talking about from this new album, when do you start writing songs for this new album? And are all the songs new, or did you rescue any composition that were let out of previous or the previous ones albums?
Nothing's ever left out. We always have like raw songs that are not complete. That just because the way we compose, we always have some raw ideas. I mean, like raw melodies and maybe like two riffs that go together and so on. But they never evolved into an actual song. So we're never in a situation that we don't have anything to work on. Uh, yeah. So in a theory, the process started before Thalassic was even released. But I would say that the last 4 years that we really worked as much as we could. Of course, in the beginning there was kind of shock that what the fuck are we gonna do? Because usually you release an album and it's like, okay, finally we can do the most important thing is
Yeah.
that is the tour. Because at least for me, I love playing live. I love composing and I love working in studio. But the main thing for me in music is always been playing live. And suddenly we're like, okay, you release an album, so start composing another album. And it's like it's a really weird situation because you usually live a bit. You know, you learn something from life and yourself, and you experience stuff, and then you get like kind of some raw material in between your ears to start writing some emotions where you the new songs would come out of. So it was really hard to get that process kind of going on. Of course, we had the raw ideas and some raw melodies came, but it was a tricky time. But yeah, I would say it really took years. And don't get me even started with all the lyrics. That was this was the most hardest album ever to write the lyrics to.
Okay, okay, okay. So I saw that always Ensifer has a long career, a lot more than 8 albums on your career. That you are still composing new songs, even from the last album was for years, but that's for the pandemic, these kind of things that you mentioned
Mm.
early. So are you always working on new music, or do you prefer to focus on it once you finish touring? So how do you decide when it's time to work on a new songs and a new album? Because it's been 4 years since your previous one. So what made you now the right moment to release this new album?
Uh, well, we had a bunch of songs that fit together, and it was like, okay, we need to get this out. And yeah, there's never like a pressure from label or management it's they always just give us time, like do your thing. I guess yeah, like I said, we're an old band, we're kind of established, so all the people we are working with they trust that eventually we will deliver a solid Ensiferum album. Uh, yeah, we don't have scheduled like okay, this year or that month we need to go to the studio so that we can actually book tours. I know it's kind of part of the business. Sometimes you really would actually need to think ahead, like years ahead. But for us, we're a bit stubborn in this one. We really want to keep the music, the composing kind of holy. That we want every song to be ready, and so that we can stand behind every song. And because once the album is out, you can't do anything with those songs. They live their life after that, and it really sucks if you have the feeling like "fuck, we could have done better."
Mm.
So we rather wait until the songs are ready and the album is ready and then release it. But I get it. Like I would say, it's more like a pop world. Probably you need to be there all the time. You need to be on the frame. You need to have new single out, and you need to do whatever to stay current, to stay important. But I think metal genre is a bit different, and yeah, especially when you're an old band. It's
Mm.
terrible to say that, but yeah, that's also a fact. We're not 18 anymore, even though we want to.
Okay, 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 okay. So, how do you feel about this new release compared to your previous one, which came out during difficult time due to the pandemic?
Yeah, but it was composed during much kind of better times, so we can really hear from Thalastic that it's really straightforward album where I see it now, and there's kind of joy in it. In many songs, actually, there's kind of joy in the music. And this one, you can really hear it was composed during hard times, and I don't want to sound too dramatic, but also like desperate times because we really did not know what's going to happen. Like, was that the end of live music for whatever time? And well, especially Finland is kind of an island. We are in the very periphery of Europe, so we need to always fly everywhere. So once the live music thing started to bloom again, we started to get gigs in general. The flight prices multiplied a
Yeah.
lot. So our fees did not. I'm sorry to talk about money, but that's just to explain the situation. It was also like, okay, we were there. Unfortunately, there were some gigs or festivals we had to say like we can't do that because we end up minus paying all the flights and pay like crew, pay the percentage for management and so on, and we end up on minus. That like doesn't make any sense anymore. So you can really hear that in the new album that it was composed during a bit more harder time. Yeah, there are no happy beer drinking songs. I mean, it's we're all still kind of the same guys. We still enjoy a good party and so on. But yeah, you can really hear this album was composed in very different times than Talassi.
Oh, okay, okay. So many bands and musicians see each album as a child. Each one special is in own way. So what makes this album special, and what you does it bring us musically and lyrically for this album?
Uh, Absolutely, this is really special album because I'm sorry I'm looping myself, but yeah, it was really composed during times that we didn't know what's gonna happen. And listening to the album now, it sounds amazing that we managed to do something so great. It's definitely the most ambitious album we ever made. And yeah, as a lyric writer, it was a big victory to, well, first of all, to get the idea. I don't know if you know it, if you get like some notes for this, but yeah, the lyrics are based on a fantasy book that I've been planning for like 10 years. But I never thought well, I didn't think I'm gonna start writing it yet. I mean, I wrote a little bit here and there, so a few lines, a few passages, but I always thought I'm gonna start writing it when things get a bit calmer, like let's say in 5 years or something. Always thought like I'm just gonna build the story in my head a bit more, and yeah, we were also like the lyric writing, like I said in the beginning, it was a bit hard because we had like raw ideas for songs, and all the ideas I got for lyrics, they felt kind of artificial. They're like there was a song, and then I came with the lyrics, and they just didn't work out together. So I threw away so many ideas, and at one point, the guys were like telling me like we can't really progress with the arrangement or composing the songs until we have the lyrics and some vocal arrangement ideas. And I was like, yeah, I know. So there's a lot of pressure because everybody wants the album to get ready. And so I really started thinking like, what are my options? And I think one of the things that I thought like, okay, should I like read one of my favorite books again and maybe write something from a book or something like this? And then I came to think like, but there's this book that I haven't written yet, but I have a story in my head. Like, could this work if I take it? If this is a long story of the whole book, if I take like some fragment there, like small piece and like few characters and few events that happen, could this work? And then I started listening to the very raw demos with this idea in my head. I was like, fuck, this works. Like, yeah, this song definitely fits the mood of this character or this faction or this event. And then it was actually quite easy to write the lyrics, but the struggle to get to that point, kind of to get this insight, because in my head, I never thought that the story of the book and Ensiferum would meet. Never, never, never. They were always like two completely separate things. And but here we are.
Oh,
Never
okay,
say
okay.
never.
Okay, okay. Interesting to know because you mentioned one thing about this winter storm. You are refer a book that you
Yes.
base these lyrics of this novel. So is the book from Elin Hilderbrand, correct? Or what
Uh,
kind of book is Winter Storm?
no, no, that's the name of the album, but it's
Uh,
based on a book that I'm gonna write.
oh, okay. I sorry for that.
Yeah, yeah, no, no worries, no worries. Yeah, yeah. So it's a book that I've been planning for like 10 years, but
Mhm.
I didn't think I'm gonna start writing it yet. I mean, I've written a bit, but I always thought I'm gonna start writing properly bit in the future. But yeah, I guess now I need to step on it. I think I need to start writing it quite soon because there are already people asking about it. So it's like, okay, I think I can't wait too long anymore.
Uh, okay, okay. Oh, how do you feel the fan reception to the singles has been to promote this album has been so far? How do you usually choose the singles for the new album, considering that your sound is very diverse and it would be difficult to have one song that encompasses all music you put in each album?
Yes, you're really hitting the spot. Ensiferum has always had a lot of like variety in our music because that's how we love making music. We love to have like variation and also to challenge ourselves. And I think everybody's music taste is very different. I mean, very wide. So that also brings a lot of ideas from different genres. And choosing the singles is always hard. So that's why actually for this album, we're gonna actually have four real videos and lyric videos. So in the end, there's gonna be at least five videos, kind of. Uh, these first ones they just felt like good starting point to get the start of the journey to the album. Uh, so far, the feedback has been really good because, like I said, the previous album was much more straightforward. The songs on Winter Storm are much more kind of complex, kind of artistic. If that doesn't sound too bad, but considering that, I think the feedback has been really, really good, really positive, and like every day there's like messages from fans like, yeah, I can't wait to hear more of the album and so on. So that's a really nice starting position, and I think I'm really curious to hear what fans think about the whole album once they listen to it a few times and eventually when they've seen all the videos, because yeah, you can the four videos that we are making, they're kind of linked together. Well, it's the whole album is linked together. So when all four videos are out, you can actually watch them in a row, and it's gonna make like a short movie. So that's something that I really like.
Okay, okay. Oh, you said about this the lyrically. This is the first steps of your future book, yeah, that you will be
Mhm.
writing in the future. So for this, so what themes do you explore on this new album lyrically, and where does this inspiration come from? Where and obviously, why do you choose the name Winter Storm?
Uh, the album title is always a pain in the ass. uh, well, it fits the the world, especially this part of the story, the big story. It happens during winter, and it happens kind of north of this world, this continent where the story is happening. So with the song fit very well the album name as an album name. The lyrical themes. There's a lot of really humane stuff. I mean, I would say there's a lot of how could I put it? Well, like most of the books, they tell about life. Of course, now I have the advantage of writing a fantasy book, so I can also add magic and like supernatural stuff there because that's stuff that I like. I'm a geek. I always loved movies and video games and fantasy books and sci-fi stuff. I always love that stuff. And I don't know. It's what could I say without sounding completely too cliches? Well, it tells about the story of very humane themes like greed, betrayal, uh, love, a loss, and really kind of everyday stuff. But then you just put it in the fantasy world and put it in the fantasy story, and well, like I think I would say most books and most movies also like if you really go deep in the core, they're like all about very basic human emotions and life experiences.
Mm, okay,
I
okay.
hope I hope that answers.
Okay, okay. So now talking about the promotion of this winter storm. So what kind of plans do you have for this winter storm? And obviously for Ensiferum. Perhaps you will embark in tours. You will come again from Latin America for a full tour next year. Who knows? What kind of plans do you have in general for winter storm and Ensiferum?
We're gonna do something really cool. Like 2 days, 2 or 3 days before the actual album release, we're gonna have a pre-listening session in Children of Bodom. They have a bar, the guys. So we're gonna have a listening session there, and the doors are open. Fans can come, and the whole band will be there. They can ask questions, and even the fans or people who purchase the album in advance in Finland, they can actually get their album already there. So if they want autograph or whatever, so that's gonna be really cool, and I'm really curious to listen to the album with fans and talk about it then. What their first thoughts about that will be. And then in December, we're going to start tour in Finland with another Finnish band called Swallow the Sun. Very different genre, but they're also like very melodic band. They're like, well, I really like them. I like them for years. The guys and their music. And in January, we're gonna join a Pagan Fest tour with Ailstorm and Tur, Heidevolk, and Elven King. That's gonna be. I think it's gonna be the biggest tour we ever done. Pagan Fest was kind of this concept that was really big 10, 15 years ago. And after that, I'm sorry, I can't reveal too much, but yeah, there's gonna be a lot of touring around the world. Also, we will cross the oceans. So I really hope we can come to Latin America also. Well, next 2 years we'll be very busy, and I think we're gonna. Uh, I think we're gonna go to almost every continent. It's really like the plan because there was 4 years that we didn't do that much. I mean, there were not that many gigs. There were only like a couple handful of tours, and even festivals were we didn't do that much. So now the calendar looks actually very full already for the next 2 years, and of course we have plans after that, but that what will happen after that. But we also leave a bit of freedom. I mean, if Iron Maiden suddenly contacts us and wants us on the tour, then we need to postpone some other plans. But uh, yeah, things look really good. We're gonna do a lot of touring around the world, and that feels so good because that's like I said, that's something I love the most in music.
Okay. Okay, okay. One thing that when talking about other kind of topics, and usually the press or the fans starts with the labels. How do you see the issue of label? The fans and media always try to label bands and start playing with words like folk, epic, pagan, of this kind of stuff into their metal. So how do you describe your sound yourselves? And are you agree that
Uh,
this, some reviewers said that you're playing epic folk metal or pagan metal?
uh, well, I guess there was a point when the excessive labeling was a bit maybe annoying, not annoying, but it was like it might have given wrong impression to people. Uh, like we were and we still are labeled many times as a Viking metal band, even though we have maybe two, three songs that actually refer to Viking. I mean, the Nordic Edda sagas, but it's like the core of the Viking mythology. Like Amon Amarth, I think they have almost all their songs refer to Viking stuff. So, uh, yeah, Ensiferum started as folk metal. That's what Markus had in his mind to have the power of metal, like the melodic metal, but have the melodies and maybe some instrument choices from the folk side, like the Nordic and Irish. And of course, we expanded our musical horizon since then. We tried other stuff, and we are always very open to try new stuff. But yeah, I have no problem if someone calls us epic folk metal or heroic Viking metal or whatever. It's okay. I mean, it's maybe it's easier to explain to a person who never heard your music, and if you say like it's a Viking folk whatever metal, then you already get an idea. Okay, probably this kind of themes in their music, and it's probably very different than if someone says yeah, it's R&B or reggae. It's much easier to make the difference. But yeah, it's okay. It's okay to label a band. I think it's makes life easier for to explain.
Okay, okay. And what's your point of view about the concept of pagan metal? Because for us, or for metalero in general, we don't think
Mm,
that this style exists because pagan is more related with the folk. When we would talk about the instrument, we would talk about the rhymes, the schemes, is more folk than the pagan. And the
mm,
pagan is more a concept. It's a concept from traditional runes, these kind of topics into the Scandinavian culture. So
mm.
for you, what's your point of view about this topic of pagan metal? Is it really a musical style, or is just the name that someone put for a certain bands?
Uh, I don't think there's a. This is my opinion. It would be impossible to say like pagan metal is certain kind of music. I think if you say that they have like pagan elements in their music, it refers to lyrics. Like because well, one example that I already mentioned, Amon Amarth, fantastic band. But if they would sing about stock markets or social problems or death metal in the very core, what makes them Viking metal is the whole theme around the lyrics and so on. And I think pagan is the same thing. It's more lyrical thing. I mean, I I start to think like, could you have like instrumental pagan metal? I guess then it would be more like shamanistic stuff. Like there is this kind of bands that do more instrumentalish chanting kind of stuff. But yeah, I really don't have any answer to this. That's just my opinion. That the word pagan as a label of a band, I think it refers much more to the mindset that the band has and their lyrical themes.
Hmm? Okay, okay. Oh, we are very close to this interview, Sammy. So one of the last questions for this interview, Sammy. So
Mm-hmm.
I also see that you have been working with the Metal Blade Records for a long time, more than 10 years now. So how do you describe your relationship with the label and how important is it for a band, considering that nowadays there is a younger bands or young bands that choose your self-produce and work independently?
Uh, there's nothing wrong with that one because nowadays that's possible. So I think younger bands are more cautious maybe nowadays because like in '90s, you could really there are these horror stories for even like big bands who signed the deal when they were young and they were completely ripped off. Like so, I understand that the younger bands are wiser now because all these stories are out there now. The band in the '90s are now older and they shared their experiences. Uh, and of course, back in the days when you knew something came out from a certain label, that was kind of the filter. You knew like, okay, they're releasing something, and I like some of their stuff, so I might like this one. So back in the old days, label was a really good filter for this. Uh, I have only good stuff to say about our first label, Spine Farm, and our current label, Metal Blade. Uh, I think if you have a good connection with the label, and the label is also putting effort into your band because yeah, it's still business. It's called music business. So I understand from a label point that they have almost too many bands, and then they kind of see which one starts to grow, and then they start really putting effort into this one. I understand it's a really matter of manpower, but I think nowadays labels are also wiser. I don't. I think many labels are not doing that much anymore. This like let's get trillion bands and let's just wait if something blooms out. I think labels are also a bit more cautious nowadays. Uh, this is just once again my opinion, but I would say for many things, label also can help you. Like, come on, I'm doing interviews around the world today, and I did some last week, and I'm gonna do more next week. So organizing this kind of stuff, especially if you're a young band, you don't have connections because that's really big part of music business. You need to have the connections. You need to know people. You can make the best music ever in your mom's basement, but if you there's so much music coming online all the time, like every day. If you
Hmm.
don't know how to promote it, if you don't know people to get you to play gigs, and I mean, social media is a fantastic tool. I mean, all these platforms, and there are these hypes every now and then for some things, but if you really think it from the perspective of a career, it really it's not a bad thing that you have people in your corner who have been working in the business for decades, who really know who to connect and how to help your band to grow and reach out right people. It's not the only way. I'm not saying that. It's whatever works for you. I mean, I'm sure there are many bands who made it through the roof without any label, but it's really not a bad thing to have a label, especially if you have good connection. Like meet those people, not just don't send just few emails. If it demands that you fly to different country to meet this label guys, go. I would say that's definitely worth it. And not to want to sound too uh, suspicious, but like all the official documents, it's also good to ask someone to double check the papers, just to be sure that that because it's at some point it's going to be legal text, and I can tell like I don't understand anything about that stuff. So, but then it comes to like we work with just two labels. With both, we had really long history. So yeah, I of course I trust Metal Blade 100%. They would never screw us over, and we would never screw them over. So it's a mutual trust. So this is like the goal where you want to go. You want to surround yourself with good people that you trust and you want to work with. And it goes both ways. You also need to
Hmm. Oh,
kind of play the game as a band.
okay, okay. So, well, Sammy, the sad moment arrived out of this interview, right? So I hope
Okay,
you enjoyed this interview as I did, and thank you very much for
I
your
did.
time. This new Winter Sun is a great one. It's a tremendous album for the band.
Thank
So
you.
congratulations on it. So maybe you have add something. Maybe you have something to add to your Latin fans and Metallurium followers.
Well, I want to thank all of you for your support because there's been a lot of feedback during all these years, and now with the two singles, thank you very much. And yeah, we're sorry it took a while, but we will come back definitely. Yeah, we are working on it. Even today, I actually had a call with our manager, so we are working with many things behind the scenes, and we can't wait to get back on the road and meet you guys live.